Karen and I used to work together quite a few years back, yeah, and what a pleasure and a blessing it is to have you with us. Yeah, thank you for being here. I missed you too, yeah. All right, so Easter, yeah, here we are. So Easter is one of the biggest holidays, yeah, it's celebrated all over the world today, people all over the world gathering. And in the Science of Mind, in our philosophy, we celebrate it too, but just in a slightly different way. You know, we look at Easter as an awakening. We look at it as a rebirth, as a time of renewal. You know, and if we look at the events that took place 2,000 years ago, specifically the time when Yeshua was in the darkness of the tomb. You can picture that, yeah? In the darkness of the tomb. It's a powerful metaphor for the inner work that precedes awakening. It's a metaphor for our life. And so today we aren't celebrating the resurrection of Yeshua. That's not what we're doing. We're actually celebrating the resurrection of ourselves. That's what Easter is about. And so the darkness in the resurrection story is this powerful space between what has ended and what is becoming. What has ended and what is becoming. You know, we've been given this impression in our culture that the darkness is bad, that it's harmful, that it's scary, that it's evil. But I suspect that you're here because all of you have been on a spiritual journey for a while, so you know that the darkness, there's actually beauty in it. And it's a necessary part of our growth journey. Yeah? The darkness is this fertile ground where miracles can actually happen and occur. And it's in those moments when we can ask ourselves some important questions. We can ask ourselves the question, what has been lying dormant within me that wants to be expressed, that wants to come forth? What is ready to awaken within me now? It doesn't matter who you are on this planet, we all have something that we are awakening to. What is wanting to awaken within you in your life? So I invite you to ponder that question for the rest of the day. So it's in the darkness when we realize some things, we start to realize the things that are no longer aligned with who we are becoming. We start to realize the things that aren't serving us anymore. It's in the darkness where we actually experience our greatest insights. Our greatest revelations, our greatest breakthroughs happen in the darkness. Yes? Yeah. And then there's this moment when the light starts pulling us. We start getting pulled by the light, towards the light. And so then slowly we roll away the stone and we step out of the darkness and into the light. And the light that we are stepping into, that's our awakening. And you know, we don't awaken just one moment in time. I suspect everybody here has had a really profound awakening in your life spiritually. You probably wouldn't be here if you hadn't experienced that. You wouldn't even be drawn to us. So we've all experienced that, but it doesn't just happen once. It happens again and again and again and again, and it'll continue happening until the day we die. Some people have their greatest awakening on their deathbed. Some of you have probably witnessed that. So what this time of year is really all about is about rising to a greater expression of who we are. It's about rising to the greater expression of our God self, our Christed self. You know, our founder, Ernest Holmes, he talks about what Christ really means, and I think it's important at this day that we talk about that. And this is what he said. He said, Christ is not a person, but a principle. It is the principle of universal love, of infinite wisdom, of perfect life. The Christ is that spiritual ideal, that perfect pattern of being towards which all humanity is evolving. We're all evolving in that direction to express more of our Christed self, our divine self, our true self. And whenever we experience an awakening, you know those moments when you experience awakening and you are in the light. Those moments is when a new part of your being is born. New passions are born out of that. New desires are born out of that. New parts of ourselves start to become alive, or maybe parts that have been dormant suddenly are becoming alive. And then there's more space for joy and for happiness and for peace and for so many other things that we don't really get to experience on a day-to-day basis. Yeah? So this is truly a time to celebrate. This is a time of great celebration. I'm going to invite Reverend Barb up now. She is joining me today, and she's got some words to share.
Do I? We never know. We just never know, do we? It's funny, I always find that like Easter ends up being like this somberness for a while. I don't know why. Because it's spring. And look at those trees. Seriously. This is such a great backdrop in this room now, right? All of these things are about the renewal of life. Easter, spring, Passover, the spring equinox, all that. Now, and we do everything based on this calendar that I really don't understand anymore. So I'm part of this like amazing, we used to call it a book group, but we never read anything, so we can't call it a book group anymore. But I'm a part of this amazing group, and a few years ago we were getting together in like January to do vision boards, and none of us could really want to get enthused about leaving our house because it was 4 degrees and dark at 3 and all of that stuff that happens in winter, right? And we started talking and we were like, why do we do this in December when we're all supposed to be living in a cave and eating good food? So we ate things instead, which is kind of what we do because we don't read anything. But anyway, we made up this somebody, some king, somewhere along the way. I should have looked this up, actually. I did not ask Claude how we ended up with New Year's being in December, but I should have, sorry. But we had this realization that the new year, new life, should kind of be the way the goddesses used to celebrate it, which was in the spring when the trees look like they're budding. And life is returning to the earth, and where our bodies actually want to stretch and move and breathe. This here is the season of fertile soil and of sun, planting new flowers. The whole row behind me was talking about being at the nursery and planting flowers before the service started. And I was like, what do you think all those rabbits and eggs are about anyway? I won't go there. But where I will go is this. If this was spring to you, if this was your new spring, it makes me want to go like this. Your new spring, what would you be planting for your one amazing life? What would you plant? So Leah was going to do all this stuff about light and love, so I just found somebody else's words to kind of help us into this. You know, I like to give homework. I've been a little bit slack about that the last few times I've spoken, so just know that from now on you're going to get some homework. So today you're going to get this. I'm going to ask you, this was something I found that the poet laureate Andrea Gibson shared, which was a writing prompt saying to write a resignation letter to a role you play in your life that you want to leave behind in the new year/spring. I'm calling it spring. Write a resignation letter to a role you play. And hers was this. Theirs was this. Very sorry, Andrea. To whom it definitely concerns. Please accept this letter as formal notification that I am resigning from the position of my own worst enemy. I've appreciated the opportunity to lower my standards so far they could win a limbo contest against a crumb. I've been honored to serve as the server at the banquet where I eat myself alive. The day I was hired, I could have never imagined how many Employee of the Month plaques I'd acquire from breaking the standing record for standing in one's own way. It's like she wrote this for me. In this position, I've grown continuously like bacteria in a staph infection. I had no idea that holding myself back would be contagious. I would like to have a different kind of impact on the future company I keep. The scene I made during our last team building exercise woke me to the need for change. I know the young people in the office are still shaken by my refusal to catch myself in the trust fall. I apologize for that gory display. Moving forward, I'll be pursuing opportunities in another field, preferably one where break rooms are for resting and not for breaking promises to the person I hope to become. I fully intend to replace whatever dreams I shattered when I was beating myself up. I had no idea where I learned punching in was a literal term. If I had known better, I would have called in sick in the head. I accepted this position initially because I believed it came with the very best insurance plan. How could I fall to my death from the ground floor? Over the years, however, I've gotten increasingly familiar with the fine print of the benefits. Turns out there are no benefits when the copay is your life. My own last day as my own worst enemy will be today. In my final 2 weeks, I will, 1, fire my inner critic, or at least demote it to part-time. 2, assure my passions have the tools they need to unionize with my actions. Assure my passions have the tools they need to unionize with my actions. And 3, sit naked on the photocopy machine. So there are 100 copies of, you can make that up for yourself. Though I suspect it won't bode well for acquiring a positive referral letter, it's important that I state I am unwilling to train a replacement in this position. It is my suggestion that the job be eliminated altogether and that no future person take on the task. If I can aid in the transition, please let me know. I am resigning from the position of my own worst enemy. So what do you want to resign from? What piece of your brain would you like to resign from? We all have them, right? The thing that tells you that you can't, the thing that tells you that you shouldn't, the thing that tells you that you won't. So what I'm going to say to you today is let that go. May your Easter eggs be overflowing with delicious possibility, soft love, and overflowing abundance of good. Because that is really what springing forth is all about. The overflowing abundance of all that is nature and good. Go outside, take a big, deep breath every morning before you turn on your phone and see how it changes your day. Let something go. So, Reverend Lee and I have a little ritual for you. So, she's going to talk about her part because it's first.
Okay, thanks.
And then I'll talk about my packets.
So we're going to do an anointing today. And anointing is a sacred thing. It truly is, and it goes back thousands of years. Yeah. And so I'm going to do the anointing part, and then Barb has a gift for you. And so we're going to start with this side of the room. And if you're uncomfortable, I'll just say that. You can stay, you can sit, remain in your seat if you're uncomfortable. I honor that. But we're going to start with this side of the room, then we're going to go here, then we're going to go here. Okay, so you're going to come up, you're going to line up, and then you're going to walk back around to the back of the room and back to your seat. Just to make the flow easier. Okay?
Let me talk about this a little bit.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we have a little envelope to give you. It says, "Let love grow." And what I'm going to ask is that sometime this week, you either put some seeds in it or you write a note in it, and then you leave it somewhere. Now, if you really want to write yourself a note and leave it for yourself, do that. But leave it someplace random. And let love grow around the communities that we live in.